Bonjour à tous. Alors oui, j'ai cet honneur d'introduire cette session.
Morning, good afternoon. It's an honor for me to be here. Let me tell you a few words about myself to start with. 7 years ago, I was the sales manager of SAP, big company listed on the stock market that produces software. And then I had this guy who was a high potential guy. He went to Stanford and he said, Jean, I'm going to quit everything. I'm going to Emmaüs. And I must say, I was really surprised because this was really not what people did at the time. And then this guy was so nice and so cool and so brilliant that I wanted to keep in touch with him, which I did. And then 2 years after he left, he calls me and he says, Jean, I have this project that I would like to start. I would like to give work, or at least to give a chance to people who have lived on the street. I want to build a project to help them be included into society again. Would you like to do that with me? Would you like to be the chairman of this company? And that's how I started my career in the social business. Well, I must say, first of all, I did this after hours, evenings, weekends, over lunchtime. I was often late when I came to meetings, etc. And then after 2.5 years, I became so thrilled and so enthusiastic about it that I quit my job. And for 2 years, I dedicated myself full-time to the development of that project. And then 2 years later, I decided to change my career and to become fully involved in that project, full-time. So this is why I'm here today in front of you this afternoon. So now, to begin with, figures, appalling figures, very unfortunate figures reflecting the inequalities of the world. You must have heard this before, we all know these figures. But just a few striking figures. 40% of the world population lives with less than 2 euros per month. $2 per day, I'm sorry. More than 1 billion people do not have access to drinking water or to electricity. 6 million young people in France are unemployed. More than 50% in Greece and Spain. And then the companies that made up the Dow Jones or the CAC 40 distribute dividends like never before. There is no debate or discussion about the following topics. The sharing of wealth is going wrong, including in Europe, including here in France. And I must say that the so-called social peace is challenged and made fragile by this. Also, no discussion about the fact that every day we live in the world which is more and more interconnected, interdependent world where natural resources and energy seem to be vanishing, unlimited. A world in which our activities generate pollution that jeopardizes our future. And unfortunately, there is nobody saying that the politicians are actually not doing anything, incapable of doing anything, and actually the only thing that they do is that they increase inequality. So basically, it's not rocket science. Today's economics is definitely not there to serve the general interest. People are only looking for short-term profit, short-term growth, and this is not enough to guarantee our future. So this is why today we suggest that we look together at solidarity and how solidarity can change the economy. Well, of course, naively, the answer would be, well, what's the risk of giving work to people who have been living on the street and give them a second chance? Well, you could also look at the paradox that we have today. As we said, we are more and more dependent on others at global scale, but still, solidarity doesn't seem to be a key principle. It actually doesn't seem to be in the forefront of our economy. So I'm no economist, I'm no scientist, I'm a social entrepreneur. And it's not always easy to theorize things when you actually do things. But I would like to share some optimism with you. And sometimes, actually, I'm a little bit euphoric in my daily work because they are positive things. I'd like to start to say a word, a positive word, mind you, about conventional companies. It's interesting to see that even the major companies, very often American ones, have changed their narrative. And, you know, the selfish company, they don't believe in that anymore. And they even raise the alarm, that's what they say, on how dangerous it would be for companies to flourish at the expense of civil society. And they try to have a vision that reconciles economic profit with profit for the society at large. And it seems that some interests of major companies today actually converge with the interests of the most fragile population. But of course, this is something that they do only because it can also serve them. The companies have the ambition to capture these billion inhabitants of emerging countries. And so the question is really, are they targeting these populations with the view of helping them grow, or are they going to merely create new needs and dependencies on this population? Well, the good news is that they are probably doing this because they have to. That is, apart from telephones, let's say, which is a standardized offer that was spread very quickly in emerging countries. But apart from that, all the goods and services have to be adapted to the markets, financial, social, and cultural markets. And I like the experience of Veolia, for example, in that respect. I think it's really full of lessons to draw. Actually, Veolia built a plant in Bangladesh, and the idea there was to provide access to drinking water to the local populations. And strangely enough, once the project was started, they realized that it didn't work. The people who seemed to be in great need for that clean drinking water, well, did not buy into the model. And then a few months later, of course, Veolia looked at that, and together with a local NGO, they sent a team of anthropologists to try to understand why the people were not using this drinking water that was now made available to them. And so a certain number of interesting things came out of this. First of all, the people had rather consume rainwater, even though it was full of arsenic, because they considered it as a divine gift. And the people did not believe that a plant could actually take the dirty water from the river and turn it into drinking water. They did not believe in the concept. And it's only thanks to work done by social stakeholders in the field and Grameen Bank that Veolia managed to get the people to buy into the project. What does it mean? It means that a company cannot operate on its own. It has no legitimacy to do so. It has to collaborate, to work together with the local authorities and with the local stakeholders and the field social players. And the second reason why companies are interested in most underprivileged populations is that we are in a very difficult situation, and companies like to bring their employees together around a project that makes sense to them. So as I said, I started working in the social enterprise a few years ago, and now I'm leading a project which is a telephone and internet operator, but a social one. So how did this start? Well, it started in that integration company that gave work to the people, to homeless people. We found that actually all these people had a cell phone. And very soon we came to realize that that cell phone was more important to them than our cell phones are to us. Sometimes the cell phone was necessary to their survival, to keeping the link with their families, because you've got a lot of migrant populations among the homeless. And their cell phone is the last thing that remains as an address, it's the last point of contact with society, the closest they have to an address. And so this project seemed very important to us, and so we went to talk to the CEOs of the teleco companies, and so we met the CEO of SFR, and we presented him with this paper with the list of people who had money, like, for example, 700 euros that remained to them for their life. And so they spent about 350 euros for their phone, because, somebody from Senegal who has to call their family on a regular basis, he had a huge telephone bill. And then the divine surprise was that the CEO of SFR, almost instantly, he got into it, and he said, I've got a problem. He said, every time I go to a dinner, people attack me about the corporate social responsibility of SFR, etc. So he summoned immediately his sales director, and he said to him, okay, there, I think we have to do something urgently for the underprivileged and the homeless. So what did we do? Well, we started this program, which is based on an offer. We actually have SFR providing us with prepaid cards and internet access, and we topped this with an educational offer that aims at empowering the people in that respect of the internet and that type of things. So today, thanks to this work, thanks to this collaboration, well, of course, nothing would have happened without SFR, right? So we have a certain number of social workers who've been informed about this, what we call the digital fracture in French. I don't know if you've looked at your telephone bills, but my God, it's incredibly difficult to understand what you're talking about. So when the social workers were having people coming to them to try to requesting an explanation, they couldn't tell them anything. So we trained them, the social workers, together with the SFR people, and so we gave them a lot of information and education about all that, so that they could pass it on to the people. And now we have 1,000 beneficiaries who can then use their cell phones to talk to their families, to find a job, to entertain themselves. I've got this beautiful story of one of our beneficiaries who lives in a home, in an emergency hospitality home, and he is from Africa, and he said that thanks to us, he had a wonderful party in those places. Those homes are very difficult, and so he got in touch with everybody. It was the African Cup in football, and so he brought the people from the home in the same room, and they watched football on his computer, and they enjoyed that evening together. It looks like nothing, but doing things is very important for these people. Communication is key for these people, and it can really help them become better included in society. So you see the social use here. But from SFR's point of view, then, how did they actually perceive the value of this? Well, 200 SFR employees came to work with us on that project. They trained us. They educated us. They helped us come up with the roadmaps and the business models. They defined the market offers. They gave us access to their networks and to financing schemes, and we also worked with them on what we call mediation, because we understand that they have people who have problems with paying their bills, and they don't have a clue. SFR people don't have a clue about that, and then the beneficiaries don't have a clue. So we've managed to actually get a smoother relationship between these two parties. And this has become very important for SFR, and the telecom world is very complex, and it's really very positive, even for the top management. When they come to see us, they say, "Oh my God, we're coming to you, and it's a breath of fresh air," and it's really like this project is their breath of fresh air, and is what actually gives them the impetus to keep on doing their daily work. So this is very satisfactory. Now let's not be naive here. The contribution of corporate world to solidarity is only in the embryonic stage, because companies, of course, find their own interest there. So we cannot yet talk about solidarity. It's true that there are a lot of legal constraints in CSR. So this encourages companies to integrate solidarity into their business models. There are a few signs of hope, a few signs that companies take on board this issue of solidarity into their development schemes. Now, if companies are on the way to redemption, the solidarity is a new factor in economy. What do we do in that type of economy? Well, the activity of a company is put at the service of a socially useful project. And then also the benefits or profits of those companies are not distributed back into dividends. They are re-injected into the development of projects. So this is not so recent. If you look at the 19th century, there was already a major crisis, and social economics was born at the time. And there are some big companies, big cooperatives that date back from that time. But now, for the past 20 years, we've seen more and more of such companies everywhere in the world, and this really makes us believe in a paradigm shift, in a new world. And very often, actually, things start from emerging countries. It's very interesting to see that solidarity starts there, because we capture innovation in those countries, and it's not the other way around. Now, the good news, too, is that in those social companies, some of them have a global action. There's the example of Grameen, Professor Yunus, there's Planet Finance, there's the SOS group. Jean-Marc Borrello is going to tell you more about that in a minute. So all this demonstrates that these companies now can reach critical size to address the priorities at world scale: social crisis, environmental crisis, and financial crisis. Now, also, another specificity of these social companies is that they see further than their quarterly figures. They work on a local basis. They are anchored in the societies that they operate in. Now, what are their challenges? Well, the first thing here today when it comes to social enterprises is the change of scale. Having the means to carry the projects not locally but globally. And so the main challenge here for these companies is to have access to the world of finance, because social economics don't have a privileged access to the financial markets, that's an understatement. Even though today you find that the financial models, these business models, tend to actually be profitable. And then there's another key point, which is something that really makes me hope and that boosts me every day. It's young talents. I mean, you can't imagine today how many talented people, young people, will come to you and explain to you in a very mature way that the luxury today is to be working in a project that makes sense, in a project that makes them dream, in a project that will enable them to be fulfilled. And then, very quickly after that, they tell you that they've seen their parents kill themselves at work in a big company that constantly changed course, or in a big company that lost meaning to them, and so they found that their parents were completely disconnected from any desire. And I remember this, and I really want to mention this team of young people: Margot, Cecilia, Thomas, Michaela. They work with me every day, and they are very young and very talented people, and their ambition is based on the belief that they can change the world, and this gives me incredible strength to get up every morning and to try to work even more in that aspect of solidarity. And I'm finished with my presentation. And I think that the key aspect of this is this fun and pleasure and enjoyment that these young people transmit to us. And this is really key. You know, every time we talk to the Paris City Council or the government or SFR, and we get them to agree to come along with us. Well, of course, we have a business model. Of course, we have an organization. Of course, we have people. But the key factor here is our desire, our faith in our projects, and our desire to change the world. And I can tell you that this is much more powerful than what I experimented being the marketing manager of big, large companies, for which I never had so much enthusiasm. I'm so enthusiastic when I talk about these things, and I thank you for listening to me, and I wish you a very fruitful and enjoyable conference. Thank you, Jean, and thank you for finishing on this very positive note. It's true that you started with awful figures. You said that 6 million young people were unemployed. Well, I'm not sure this is the case, because actually we only have 3 million people on the dole in total. But anyway, let's say that it's because of your enthusiasm. You talk about big companies. Éric de la Perrière said this morning, when you want to change the world, you have to change yourselves first. So let's all do this on ourselves. 3 years ago, there was a very nice initiative, the Giving Pledge, that was made by billionaires on the planet who said that they were going to give at least half of their fortune to charities. And why not Emmaüs Connect? There's a list of 100 signees on that list, and not a French person on that. Well, we do have billionaires in France. So would you be optimistic here in that respect? Do you think that there's a change in the mindsets of people in France? Do you think that solidarity is coming out? Do you think that something might happen? Regarding the rich, well, let me be honest. I am not very much in contact with the wealthier people of the country, and they never came to me either. So I don't know. I know that, of course, you can say that the French tax system is very different from the American one regarding people with a lot of money. But unfortunately, I would like to tell you that, yes, things are starting to change, but unfortunately, no. It's true. I can see that big corporations are committed with us, but I haven't had the opportunity, or probably I haven't been able to interact with the wealthy people. I have very little interaction with these people, unfortunately. Well, thank you for admitting this, and thank you for introducing the afternoon's discussions.